Hey bookworms, it's Jade from Bedtime Bookworm and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm here to do the Honest Booktuber tag. I don't really do tags around here very often, but I was recently tagged by the creator of this one, Harriet Rosie, who has a great channel. She reads fairly diversely, but a lot of adult thrillers and dystopians and the occasional fantasy, and she does a lot of discussion and like chatty videos. So if that sounds like your kind of thing, definitely check out her channel. Harriet Rosie always comes up with really interesting questions for her tags, so I was really happy when she tagged me. Alright, let's get into the questions. Question number 1 is, have you ever lied about reading a book? And the answer is no. I honestly can't think of a time that I've lied about reading a book. I mean, maybe like when I was in school, but not that I remember. Question number 2, have you ever avoided a book because of controversy around the content or author? So I thought of a few examples of this. My first example is It by Stephen King. I've read one Stephen King before. I'm definitely open to reading more of him. I like reading horror, but I just know that the ending of the book has that really weird like sex scene. I think maybe if I hadn't seen the movies, I might be more inclined, and I would think that the book is probably scarier for me than the movie, but I don't know. I know about that scene at the end and it just grosses me out and I have no desire to read that book anymore. Another example of this is the author Marion Zimmer Bradley. She's an older author from like the 80s. I know she wrote the Mists of Avalon series, which I remember seeing in a lot of my libraries growing up, and I was always interested in reading it. It's come out more recently that she and her husband both like molested their children, and that's just not something I'm willing to forgive. To a certain extent, I'm okay with separating the art from the artist, but pedophilia, not so much. There was also some more recent like book Twitter drama surrounding a few authors, but one of the authors involved, E.K. Johnston, said something that I was kind of upset or offended by, and so I don't think I'm gonna be reading any of their books anymore. I have attempted to read one of their books in the past and I DNF'd it anyway, so I figure didn't really like that one, didn't really like the stance that they were taking in this issue, and so I don't think I'm gonna read any of their books. Question number 3 is, have you ever been sent a book for free and not disclosed it? And the answer to this is not intentionally. I try really hard to remember, particularly in my wrap-ups and in my hauls, to say whether I received it in exchange for an honest review or not. If I forget to say it in the video and I realize that while I'm editing, I put up some text on the screen. I'm not perfect. There's a chance that something slipped through the cracks. I know that there have definitely been times where I've mentioned a book in maybe like tags or other types of videos when I just mention it in conversation that I might not say that I had received that book. But I don't think it's necessary to say that every single time you mention a book, but I do try really hard to make sure I say it in wrap-ups and in TBRs. Question number 4 is, have you ever bought a book with no intention of reading it? And the answer is no, not with no intention of reading it. I definitely have bought books that I don't intend to read in the near future. Pretty much all the books that I got from the library book sale last fall, which I did a haul of and I'll link for you. A lot of them were like adult fiction books, and while I have an interest in reading them, I know that I don't read a lot of adult fiction as far as like contemporary fiction. I'm only in the mood to read that kind of stuff every once in a while. I bought those knowing that I wouldn't read them soon, but I do have the intention of reading them at some point. Question number 5 is, have you ever got caught up in booktube drama? Pretty much no. I avoid most of the drama that goes around. I see a lot of it on Twitter and I don't feel the need to really add my opinion to things. And if I need to discuss some of the drama that's going on, I'll talk about it with my friends in my DMs. I guess I would say the only time I got involved in any of the drama, and I wasn't really even getting involved, was back in January 2018 when the whole demonetization thing was happening. Basically, YouTube took away monetization from a lot of small channels. They changed the threshold from, I don't remember what it used to be. I think it was like a certain number of total views to having 1,000 subscribers and 4,000 hours of watch time in 1 year, which is not easy to get to. And there was a whole lot of drama around that, but I did make a video. It was a combination of like a 500 subscriber Q&A announcement, and I tagged on my thoughts on some of the demonetization stuff. But other than that, I haven't really made any videos about drama-related things, and on Twitter, I tend to be a spectator and not get involved. Question number 6 is, have you ever had a hate comment and did you respond? So I wouldn't say that I've had any hate comments, like straight up hate, but I have had some like not so nice comments. So the video that I've had the most like sort of mean comments on is my Wheel of Time introduction channel, and I think that's purely because that channel has by far the most views out of all of my videos. So it's just, you know, reached a lot of people, so it's inevitable that out of all of those people, some of them might not be so nice. I've had quite a number of comments from people who were, I guess, offended that I said that Wheel of Time could possibly be considered YA. I think I didn't word myself well when I was explaining that. What I was trying to get across is that it could be read by a younger audience because there's not a lot of explicit content in it. And I said something about the main characters being like 16 to 18, and I had a lot of people correct me on this and say that Rand and the boys are definitely 20 at the beginning of the book, and if I don't know that, I couldn't possibly have read the series before. I did respond to those comments. I pretty much respond to all of my comments. At this point in my channel, it's still manageable to do that, and when I get not so nice comments, I just respond back very nicely. I find a lot of times that people will backtrack what they said or apologize. It's almost like they don't expect that I'm gonna read the comment, and so they're like really mean about it, but then once they see that it doesn't upset me, that I don't like fire back at them, then they become a much more reasonable person and respond back nicely. Or sometimes they just don't respond back at all, which is totally fine. The other kind of not super nice comment that I've gotten a few times is about my editing style on my videos, and that it's very choppy and hard to watch. This one is a little bit harder for me because it's an area that I'm already like self-conscious about. The way that I film and edit is the best way for me to come across naturally and not scripted, but it does involve a lot of jump cuts, and some people find that visually to be very distracting. I also think that this really depends on the type of YouTube watcher you are. I personally am a very audio-driven person. I watch a lot of YouTube while having it on in the background and just like listening to it, so I don't pay that much attention to the visual side of it, I think, compared to some people. I think some people are very visually oriented and they're gonna notice all of my jump cuts. But I try really, really hard to make my audio in my videos very seamless, so I think that if you are more watching with your ears, that you wouldn't notice as much as if you're watching with your eyes. So I think some people are gonna find it more noticeable than others. So all I can really say is that if my editing style really bothers you and you can't watch my videos because my videos are choppy, then you're welcome to not watch my videos. I really don't think it's necessary for you to tell me in my comments that my videos are so choppy you can't bear to watch them, because that does hurt my heart a little bit to hear. But I understand that some people are just trying to give me constructive feedback, and I do think that over the past few years I've gotten better at talking to the camera and I have less jump cuts than I used to, but it has just become a part of my style too. Question number 7 is, have you ever made a video just because you knew it would get views? So I'm a little bit embarrassed to kind of talk about this, but I think it's good for me to talk about this. For a really long time, I didn't make hauls or TBRs. I originally started making hauls and TBRs because I knew that people would want to watch them. I personally don't watch a lot of hauls and TBRs. TBRs I'll watch occasionally based on the people who are doing them and if there's someone that I might want to do a buddy read with, so I might watch their TBR to see if they're reading anything that I would be interested in reading with them. But hauls I really don't watch. And that's because I'm one of those booktube viewers who is here for wrap-ups. I want to know what people thought of a book afterwards. People haul things all the time, including myself, and don't read them. However, I realize that hauls are a cool way for some people to find out about books that they've never heard of. So I recognize that there is value in hauls for some people, even though I don't find them valuable to watch. But the really interesting thing is that while I originally started making hauls for views, essentially, I've actually started to get a lot of value out of them. I found that doing hauls is a good reminder of all of the books that I bought, which I know sounds like duh, but because I don't buy a lot of books at once, I buy them like one here, one there, it's really easy for me to forget what I've bought. And it also feels like I haven't bought a lot of things, but doing a haul video where I talk about all the things that I bought in a certain amount of time all at once shows me that I do buy a decent amount of books, and it reminds me about books that I have already forgotten about since I bought them. So even though I originally started doing hauls for the views, which I hate saying that, it wasn't for the views, it was because I knew that people that were not me found value in hauls. Now I find value in them as well, and that was totally like not what I expected. TBRs are similar in that I started making them because I know that that's something people like to watch. If you've seen my TBRs, you know that they're a little bit different than the average booktuber. I don't do them monthly. I thought that would be way too restricting for my tastes. And I also always put way more books, at least 5 to 7 more books on my TBR than what I can actually read in a season. And so I did have to tweak it to work better for me, but I was still making them thinking that they were more for other people who were interested in what I was reading and that I wouldn't get a lot out of them. And I've actually found a lot of value in doing seasonal TBRs too that was totally unexpected. Seasonal TBRs have led me to do more buddy reads because people can watch your TBR and see what you've got on your radar, and if they're interested in reading that book too, they'll reach out to me and we'll set up a buddy read, and then that makes me prioritize that book over other books on my TBR. But it's also allowed my reading to be a little more focused. A lot of my reading before I started doing the seasonal TBRs was very random. It was honestly based on what was coming available from the library. I'd go to my library website and I'd put a bunch of things on hold that I was interested in. Whenever it became available, that's when I was going to read it. I had really no plan, and this is also some of what led to me starting so many series and never finishing any. Since I've started doing my TBRs, I've been able to finish a lot more series, been able to continue in a lot more series. I'm just a lot more focused in what I'm trying to read because I have a list of things that I'm picking from. Question number 8 is, if you could go back to the beginning of your channel, would you do anything differently? I maybe would have gotten a mic earlier in the process because getting a mic really changes your sound quality. I didn't think it was going to make that much of a difference, but as soon as I got one, I was like, wow, I sound so much clearer and louder, and so I wish that I had gotten one of those sooner. You can get them really cheap, just like a lapel mic off of Amazon. But I think the main thing that I would change is starting to post consistently earlier in my channel. The first year and a half, maybe 2 years I was on BookTube, I was not posting consistently at all. It was all over the place. The thing is that there is just such a big learning curve at the beginning of starting your channel that I think it took me a couple years of doing random videos before I really got the hang of it and knew what I was doing enough to be consistent. When it comes down to it, the thing that really changed between when I was not being consistent in posting and to being consistent in posting is that I made it more of a priority. I just point blank made a schedule and sat down and made sure that I filmed when I needed to and stayed on top of it. But I also think that I needed the first 1.5 years of stumbling through posting videos to kind of figure out how to make it a priority, if that makes any sense. So if I could, I would go back and I would be more consistent from the beginning, mostly because I just love doing this and I wish that I had done that sooner, but also because it does help to grow your channel and to really connect with other people in the community if you are consistently posting. If you're in and out of your posting, it's really hard to make friends that way. And I've just found BookTube to be way more rewarding ever since I started posting once a week consistently. Another thing that I wish I had done differently is back in January of 2017, I actually started doing what are essentially reading vlogs, but during the week I would take all these clips updating you guys on my thoughts on what I was currently reading. I was having a lot of fun doing them, but they basically became the only content I was putting up, and so I stopped doing them. But this was before reading vlogs really became a thing, and to see how the idea of reading vlogs has really caught on in the community makes me really excited, and it would have been cool if I had been at the forefront of that. I mean, my channel was tiny, nobody was watching those reading vlogs, but it would have been cool if I had been doing them this whole time since January of 2017. Doing weekly reading vlogs is a one-day goal of mine. I really love watching them. I love the idea of doing them, but at this point in my life, I just don't feel like I have enough time to keep up with that amount of content, but I'm hoping to one day do weekly reading vlogs because I love them. Question number 9, Are there any channels you wish you could be more like? I like my channel the way it is because it's very me. And I don't want to do anything that wouldn't fit with my personality or with my channel because then I'm not going to enjoy it as much. But there are definitely other people's channels who have qualities that I admire and wish that I could do some of the things that they do. So one of the things that I wish I could be was maybe a little more creative with my content. I love doing staple booktube content. Because I'm not that creative, it gives me things to be constantly posting. But there are a number of channels that I admire for their creativity. Books and Lala, of course, is super creative. She comes up with really good ideas for videos that nobody's ever done before. Elliot Brooks is really good at coming up with lists, and I want to start doing more list videos on my channel, and I've come up with some ideas for lists, but I only have like 2 or 3 books that fit those criteria yet. I really admire Murphy's channel as well, specifically her weekly vlogs. Like I've just finished mentioning, I love weekly vlogs, and I just haven't really gotten the hang of them to the point that I can do them every week, and she's so good at them. Hers are so concise. Being concise is definitely one of her skills. She's really good at summing up her feelings and thoughts on a book concisely, and that's something that I struggle with. I just have so many thoughts and things that I want to say about books that it's really hard for me to say them in a concise way. I just love her reading vlogs, and I hope to one day make reading vlogs like that. Another thing that I admire in a lot of channels is when the person is really funny. I sometimes think that I'm really boring to watch. I'm not like super animated, and I'm not funny, and I love watching funny channels. When it comes to funny channels, of course, there's Read with Cindy. She's hilarious and super creative. I also think Natasha from My Reading is Odd is pretty funny as well. Daniel Green does really funny editing things in his videos. Another channel that I only recently have discovered is A.G. McDonald. His channel is really cool because his channel is animated, but he also has like a really self-deprecating kind of humor and does like funny editing things in his videos. So yeah, sometimes I wish I was a funny channel, but although I will say that I do include bloopers at the end of most of my videos, and those are funny. And then the last like category of qualities I want to talk about are people who are really good at discussion topics. I follow a lot of channels that do a lot of discussions and get like really deep and thoughtful about things, and I really enjoy watching that kind of content, but I struggle to make it myself. So some of these channels would include Harriet Rosie, who created this tag. She's always doing like chatty, discussion-y videos. There's also Books Like Whoa. She does a lot of discussion videos that I really enjoy watching. And also Jess from Jess Reads Books. She doesn't necessarily do a lot of discussion videos, but in a lot of her weekly vlogs and some of her other videos, she's pretty open and discusses mental health. And sometimes she can get really vulnerable in her videos, and I just really appreciate that. All those booktubers are of course linked in my description box, and you should totally check them out. Okay, question number 10, the last question, is what's something that you love about your channel? And there's definitely a lot of things that I love about my channel, but the main thing that I love about my channel, and this is gonna sound, I don't know, cheesy or ridiculous, is I really love the way that I talk about books. Every booktuber has a different style in the way that they talk about books. The main thing that I love about how I talk about books is that I try really hard to convey the way the book made me feel, or the way that I feel about a book, without going into details about the plot. A lot of times I don't like to know too much about a book before going in, and so I've put a lot of thought into like the order that I talk about things in, and the way that my reviews or wrap-ups are set up is that I allow people to listen to as little about the book as they want. So I start really vague and then go like more specific. But even when I go specific, I'm mostly talking about my feelings and the themes and the tropes in the book, and not necessarily really giving you a synopsis. You may or may not have noticed that I don't really give synopses on my channel. I do occasionally, depends on the type of video that I'm doing, but in my wrap-up specifically, I try to be really vague. So I always start with my star rating, because I figure if people just want to get like my impression of what I thought about the book and they don't want to know anymore, great, here's my star rating. Then I mention the age category and the genre. And then from there, I go into what I did and didn't like about the book. Basically, when I'm talking about a book, I try to think about it from a viewer's perspective and like what I would want to get out of what they're saying. I just happen to be the type of reader who doesn't necessarily want to know too much specific information about a book before going into it, and so that's kind of how I try to structure the way that I talk about books on my channel. I'm more interested in what people feel about a book than what the book is about. Anyways, all of that to say, I really like the way that I personally talk about books. I know that's not a style that's gonna work for everybody, but hopefully if you like watching my channel, then you like that style. Alright guys, those are all of the questions in the tag. If you're interested in doing this tag, feel free to go ahead and do it, but I'm also gonna tag these people.
Aoife from Fred Weasley Died Laughing, Jess from Jess Reads Books, Leanna from Leanna's Library, Vanessa from Paper Fairy, and Stacy from Stacy's Stories.
Alright guys, that is all I have today. If you like this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you like bookish content. I post 1 to 2 times a week. That is all I have for now. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, bookworms, keep reading. Bye. Book because of a controversy around the content or author. Why am I struggling? I'm just me, and I can't force being funny, so, but what can I say? I'm just me, right? Why is this so hard?